my channel. Today I want to share a little bit more about my background and my story on how I became a full-time artist. And I really wanted to create this type of content for art students or those who want to become an artist. I hope that my story and just the things that I'm going to be sharing in this video will help you launch your career as an artist. Alright, so I have to take this back to my college years because that's actually when I started doing freelance jobs. So like I mentioned, I was a student and I needed to raise money to go to Alaska for a mission trip. So I decided to create a watercolor calendar to fundraise for this trip because I was a broke art student at the time. So that was really how I first started to share my work. I wasn't sharing my artwork at all on social media or to my friends. I was what you would call a closet artist. So when I started to share my work to sell the watercolor calendar, people started to take notice. So for my friends who wanted to support me, they did end up buying the calendar, but for other people, it gave them an idea like, oh, she does art. I didn't know that. I actually need a logo design made, or I really want to make this custom artwork for my office or whatever. So people started to ask me about custom projects, and that's how my freelance journey began. So if you are an art student, or if you want to at least dip your toes into what that would look like, I would definitely recommend sharing your work online. I know it's a little uncomfortable to do that because it might feel a little braggy, or it might feel like, oh my gosh, what if people judge me? And it is definitely scary to put yourself out there in that way. I totally understand. Putting your work out there makes you feel like really vulnerable, and it's like a really scary thing to do, but doing that consistently will help you feel a little bit more comfortable with sharing your work. And honestly, that is really the first step in becoming a professional artist, is to create a portfolio and then share it. I know this is a really obvious tip, but a lot of artists don't do that. And if you actually look back in history, a lot of famous artists didn't become famous until after they've passed because their artwork wasn't seen by the masses until they've passed away. So don't be that artist. Put your work out there and just show up for people. So once I started to post my work online, that's when I began to get inquiries for custom artwork and things like that. But one thing that you guys should know is that I definitely didn't launch into it full-time from the get-go. I had a lot of side jobs. I was working as a waitress. I was a swim instructor for kids. Like I mentioned earlier, I was an art teacher for kids as well. I also worked at a brick and mortar shop, did social media managing, and did visual display internship at Anthropology. That actually do have a blog post about, so I'll link it down below if you are interested in learning more about that. But yeah, I had a lot of jobs that I was doing part-time on the side along with my freelance jobs. And on top of that, I was a full-time art student. And that's actually one of the things that I learned at school was the deadlines, how important deadlines are, and not just the deadline, procrastinating until the due date is due, but they also have first draft checkup, second draft checkup. Definitely set a schedule. Make sure you set a timeline for each of your projects and see where it fits, and also create some buffer time in the case that you get a smudge or your dog walks over and knocks something off your artwork. Definitely create some buffer time and make sure you get those deadlines in place, and make sure you also meet those deadlines. So that was something that I did learn in art school, but something I didn't learn is actually setting ground rules for your freelance projects. So what I mean by that is having a contract in place. So one of the first professional lessons learned for me was I was doing wedding invitations, and for one of my first clients, it pains me to admit it, but I didn't have a contract in place, and I actually didn't even communicate how many drafts or revisions I was going to allow. Make sure you have a set number of revisions set in place before you get into it, because you don't want to like have it in your mind and be like, okay, 3 rough drafts is good enough before I give her the final. And then last minute, if you tell her like, oh, by the way, you ran out of your revision numbers, then that's unfair for her, because she's gonna be like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. And also make sure to include how they can communicate with you. So one of the things that I also made a mistake on, and if I could go back in time, I would definitely add this into my workflow, is to let your clients know how they can communicate with you and when they can communicate with you. So if you want your clients to, message you or email you between working hours, make sure you also abide in those rules. Make sure you also email them at the appropriate time and the day. Like, don't email them on Sunday night at 9 p.m. because that will train your clients to think that they can reach out to you whenever or text you whenever. Like for me, I don't like to receive hard edits or revision information on text message or phone call. I need to have like a written receipt. So if I ever do have a phone consultation and they tell me, oh, can we actually change this? Then I'll write it down and I'll email them after our call and say, as per our phone conversation, blah, blah, blah. So it's all like written out there. So if you ever get lost, especially when you have your freelance inquiries picked up, like if you start getting more work and you have more clients, you're not gonna remember it in your head. So make sure you set those kind of habits now, so when you have more clients, it's a little bit more seamless. Having those ground rules and boundaries in place will make your clients feel safer and will also help you to be a professional artist. Remember that you're going from artist to a professional. So you want to, you know, market yourself as a professional and hold yourself as a professional. And lastly, one tip that has helped me tremendously in my art career and being able to do this full-time is networking with other creatives around me. So one way that I did that, of course, was I graduated from Cal State Long Beach, so I had that community, so I kept in touch with my fellow students from there. I also, the last job that I had before I quit, I worked at a brick and mortar shop that had creative classes. They would teach calligraphy workshops or watercolor workshops. So I was able to meet people who were already doing the thing that I wanted to do. So I would converse with them, I would help them set up, I will get them coffee, whatever they needed. I would market their services online and share it because I was also doing social media managing for the shop. So I would like help them promote their classes and things like that. And so because I was helping them, I think they would be more open to conversing with me and sharing their art journey as well. So through those connections, I was able to get a lot of information and knowledge before I launched my full-time art career. But if you're not in that creative community or that environment already, then network with people online. Like, it's crazy that you can connect with people all over the world through Instagram, YouTube, and all different types of social media. So just put yourself out there. You never know what can happen. Going from side hustle to full-time artist is absolutely possible, but in order to do that, you have to make sure that you create those habits of a professional artist. So even if you're not a full-time artist yet, treat yourself, treat your schedule, treat your clients, treat your social media, and however you market yourself as if you were already a full-time artist and as if you are treating this seriously. Because if you're going to be doing this as your job, then you have to take it seriously. So make sure you constantly educate yourself. Don't be a naive artist. Absorb as many information, build those connections, as well as working on your actual craft. I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through the comments below or email me. I'll leave my information down below, as well as some blog posts that might be helpful for you on going after your art career. So till next time, I'll chat with you guys later, and I hope this video is helpful. Bye.